Hi, and welcome to this video on mastering natural light tips for stunning photos. In this video, you will learn how to use natural light to get the best possible images. You will encounter natural light all the time, and therefore it is imperative that you understand it. Photography. The term photography comes from two words, namely photo, which means light, and graphy, which refers to drawing with. So if there is no light, there is no photograph. Aspects of light. There are two main aspects of light. One is direction, the other is quality. When we talk about direction of light, we are talking about the position of the light with relation to the subject. So we can have front light, side light, backlight, and rim light. Rim light is often referred to the light that is just around the contour of the subject. When we talk about quality of light, we are talking about two things. One is the intensity and the other is the color temperature. Intensity means how hard or soft the light is. When we talk about intensity, we are talking about the hardness of the light or the softness of the light. When we talk about hard light, we are talking about strong contrasts. That is, you have deeper blacks and brighter whites, or shall we say, deeper shadows and brighter highlights. When we talk about color temperature, we're talking about the actual color of the light. The color temperature of light is measured in Kelvin units, so with a K, that is. So when we talk about the color of light, we're talking about the color of light as we see it naturally. So therefore, when we start off right from dawn, it is purplish in color, that is before sunrise. Just before sunrise, it turns bluish in color. Thereafter, at sunrise, it turns reddish orangish, and finally it turns yellow, and then by midday it becomes almost bright white, and then the whole process is reversed from midday to sunset. Front light. Front lighting is a type of lighting setup where the light source shines directly onto the front of the subject. This style of lighting is popular for its straightforward, even illumination, and it's very useful in various photography scenarios like portraits, product photography, and studio work. It evenly highlights textures and details on the subject. It reduces depth and dimension. In the case of portraiture, it highlights the full face. It is suitable for situations where you need soft diffused light. It minimizes shadows and textures. It minimizes the contrast between highlights and shadows. It is especially good for photos that need simplicity and clarity, especially like in the case of catalog images. Side light. Side lighting is a technique where the light source comes from the side of the subject, usually at a 90-degree angle to the camera. This setup emphasizes texture, depth, and dimension, making it particularly effective for portraits, landscape, still life, and travel photography. This kind of light enhances texture and detail. It creates a high contrast and drama. It creates selective highlighting because you can position the subject accordingly so that you can highlight only those aspects of the subject that you need. The emphasis is on shadows. You can control the overall mood and tone. It is suitable for low-key photography. It's ideal for storytelling and character portrayal. So use this kind of side light to enhance texture and detail in your subject. Backlight. Backlighting is a lighting technique where the light source is positioned behind the subject. That is, the light is facing the camera. This setup creates a distinctive effect that can produce a range of moods from soft and ethereal to bold and dynamic. So you can create silhouettes and outline effects with this kind of light, and it is best with strong and recognizable shapes. It creates a glow and halo effect. It creates depth and dimension. It enhances mood and atmosphere, and it highlights textures and creates translucence. Rim light. Rim lighting is a photography technique where light is positioned behind or at an angle from the subject, outlining it with a bright rim of light along its edges. This creates a distinct glowing edge that separates the subject from the background and adds depth. Rim lighting is especially popular in portrait, product, and creative photography. You can create a silhouette with this kind of light. In order to do that, you have to make sure that the subject is not lit at all from the front. You can create outlines and highlight edges. This kind of light enhances subject separation. It requires precise lighting positioning in the sense that the subject will have to be placed appropriately so that there is light only on the edges of the subject. It is useful for dramatic and creative effects. It is popular in portrait, product, and creative photography. Quality of light. Quality of light in photography refers primarily to its softness, hardness, color, and direction. The quality of light plays a key role in defining the mood, highlighting textures, and setting the overall tone of an image. The factors that influence quality of light are the intensity of the light, the softness or the hardness of the light. A light is considered hard when it creates strong contrasts, that is, dark shadows and bright highlights. Quality of light is also determined by the contrast, the amount of diffusion of the light, the color temperature of the light, and the distance from the light source. The further the light source is from the subject, the harder the light gets or more contrasty the light gets. And the closer the light is to the subject, the more softer it is or less contrasty it is. A case in point here is the sun. Even though it is a very large light source, it is very far away from us and therefore it creates deep shadows. Types of natural light. The different types of natural light are golden hour, open shade, midday light, overcast light, and blue hour light. Golden hour light. Golden hour light occurs just after sunrise or before sunset. It creates a warm, soft light with warm tones and soft shadows. It is ideal for landscape photography and creating flattering portraits. You will find that most of the famous landscape photographers use this light to get very nice photos. This light creates beautiful images with the right amount of contrast and color. Open shadows. This type of light is in an area that is not lit directly by sunlight. It is also called indirect light. It is diffused in nature. It has a low contrast feel to it with light shadow and very light highlights. It is good for macro photography and portrait photography. You may want to use this light where you want less shadows. Midday sunlight. Midday sunlight is very contrasty. It's a very harsh light. It creates deep shadows and very bright highlights. Therefore, you get very strong contrast. It is not good for portrait photography because it creates dark circles under the subject's eyes and it creates a phenomenon which is normally called raccoon eyes. It is good for high contrast scenes and good for black and white photography. You can get the best of the image by also using HDR photography. HDR stands for High Dynamic Range Photography. Overcast light. You get overcast light on a cloudy day where the sun is completely covered by clouds, and because of that the light gets diffused, it gets soft, and you have a minimal quality in the light. There are no shadows. This kind of light is good for macro photography, for portraits, and sometimes for snowy landscapes where there is no direct light. Blue hour light. Blue hour light occurs 20 to 30 minutes after sunset or before sunrise. You may not see this with your naked eye, but when you take a picture during this time of the sky, you will find the sky dark blue in color. This type of light is good for moody atmospheric photos and also for night photography. In night photography, normally you get the sky black, but if you shoot at this time, you would get the sky dark blue. Blue light contrasts well with all the highlights in the picture, especially at dusk, creating beautiful images. This light also gives you vibrant color.